NSFW, married people of Reddit, what is some creepy advice that you were given on your wedding day by a friend or relative? My mill told me if I keep acting smart it won't last long, and the secret to her 25 years of marriage is always act dumb around the husband. Met her husband's mistress few years later. She was a successful lawyer with a PhD. I feel bad for her, thinking the ideal relationship is with someone who thinks you're beneath them. I agree. The best way to get over a woman is to get under another one. Don't forget to work the clit. She'll be a happy bride for very miss the days when my grandma would only give gardening tips or baking tips. Mom, son, your sister and your brother-in-law use the rhythm method. Me, you realize they have 6 kids, right? My mill set up this Jenga set at our wedding where people could write messages, so when if we play we would have the memories of the day. My wife's uncle wrote suck his darn. I had a drunk old lecher cousin say to me, "Ya gonna duck her good tonight?" Yeah, duck her real good at the after party. Not me, but at my friend's wedding. She has a super religious section of the family. Like of the 5 siblings, one is a priest, one is a nun, and one is a volunteer youth pastor on the side. The priest uncle said, "Just because you're married now doesn't mean you can be lustful. Just remember that sex always under the eyes of Lord." Her husband is a sex toy designer. We need an AMA from this dude. First question, how often do you bring your work home with you? Not advice, but my new father-in-law dropped us off at the airport after our wedding and said, "Bring me back a grandson." I got, "She's your problem now. Good luck." My dad told my husband at least once a month for the last 25 years. "She's been asking me for a pony. It's your turn now. Stay strong." Apostrophe. So do you have a pony? Or is your husband staying strong? My wife's mother told her at her first marriage, never turn him down when he wants it. Otherwise he'll start to stray. Apostrophe. Comparatively tame. But the "she's always right" sentiment of a lot of older couples is insane. Like, Donald, you spend 6 hours a day away from home because you can't communicate with your wife and you refuse to actually treat your daughter like a person with her own thoughts. Don't pretend like your advice is worth jack shit. My Uncle Joe told me and my husband, "You gotta be willing to lose an argument." He was married 50 years. We said, "I'll do an Uncle Joe" when we wanted to end an argument. Worked for us. That's not bad. Some things can't always be worked out and you just learn to let it go. Not creepy, but my in-laws pulled me aside and tried to guilt trip me into agreeing to spend more holidays with them than with my parents. Careful with that. This happened to a friend of mine and he goes with his in-laws more than his own parents. I see his parents every now and then and they are sad about how he never spends the holidays with them. My sister's in-laws told her to be understanding if at one point their boy had a GF. It's something men do when they don't feel loved or cared for at home. They have different needs, and as long as they still provide for their home, it'll be okay. You can guess how faithful my Bill's dad was in that marriage. My Bill, married into this family, also leaned in and whispered, "Well, they can't get rid of you now." Didn't realize that it was less joking camaraderie and more of a warning of my in-laws' attitude towards the people their children marry. I was allies with all the married into people in my ex-boyfriend's family. His mom was difficult when she wanted to be, read, a rampant narcissist. Fortunately my husband's parents are exactly the same kind of lovably crazy as mine. It works well. I'm not sure I would classify it as creepy, but my grandmother told me to figure out how my husband likes his pillows arranged. Her reasoning was he would want a sense of normalcy for the first night. Make love like it's the last time. Every time. My wife's grandma. You look beautiful. If you weren't my niece, who knows what could happen. Calm down, Alabama. Cool it there, Donald. Stay hydrated. You're gonna need it tonight, man. Colleague that got the obligatory invite. No, really creepy, but my mum told me marriage is like a game of cards. You start with 2 hearts and a diamond in your hand, but by the end you're begging for a club and a spade. I was at a rehearsal dinner before a family member's wedding, and there was an open mic for giving speeches at the dinner. One of their grandmothers gets up, says happy ducking, and then sits back down. She's been waiting to bust that one out. One of my cousins got married when he was 30ish. My aunt/his mom, one of the most awkward people I've ever met, decided the morning of his wedding was finally the time to explain how sex worked and gave him some quack drops that were advertised to make his penis bigger. She made the assumption that the drops were needed based on his dad/her ex-husband. The cousins were never supposed to know about this, but his brother overheard and immediately texted all of us. But he knew before she told him, right? Our priest lectured us that women don't understand symmetry. I had a lovely heart-to-heart with my father-in-law before my wedding, which consisted of him telling me to not let his 20-year-old son get too drunk. That's really all he said. Nothing about treating his daughter well, nothing. Not that scary but pretty sad. Her family sucks. A blowjob a day keeps the mistress away. A friend said this to my wife. I've had so many coworkers insist that when I mention that I do enjoy giving blowjobs when I get married, I will lose all interest because I don't have to keep trying to impress my man. The implication being I won and can stop working so hard at things. I've met some of their wives who laughed at my navet and was told when I get married, I can stop doing all that bullshit. First of all, I feel badly for all of them if that is how they feel about their marriages. Second, I want my partner to enjoy having sex with me. Married or not, I will still put in the effort, just as I assume he will, because we both want the other to enjoy themselves. It's not work. It's not a game that is being played and the finish line is the wedding. Jesus. It's depressing as duck to think about these couples using sex as a contest or a blowjob as a means to an end. I think he wife could have written this. Holy duck. Some people's sex life must suck. Sex is fun for everyone. Why are you complaining? Go have sex with your husbands and have fun. No return parents. Wrong. Bridesmaid to my wife on a wedding day. Statistically, you are now 3 times more likely to die at the hands of your new husband than a stranger. So, not quite the scenario in the question, but easily the best advice that anyone gave us. My grandmother pulled us aside and said, "Kids, everyone is going to give you advice about how to be a married couple. Smile, nod, say, thank you so much. Then, go right ahead and do whatever in the hell you were going to do." My wife and I had been loving together 8 years at this point. Looked at each other. Then we looked at her, smiled, nodded, and replied, "Thank you so much." She just laughed and hugged us. I really miss her. At my wedding, my old high school teacher told me not to blow it on her face tonight. He is a super cool guy and was just messing around. However, it was great advice. So not given to me directly, but to my ex-wife. My ex was from another country, so there was a bit of a delay before she met my mother. When they did, my mom decided to hand off a ton of How to Love Your Black Man books to my ex. My ex not wanting to start anything between me and my mother hid them. I found them one day and Jesus, those were some absolute ducking cringe. Also doesn't help that my mom is white. So like, is this the type of shit she was reading when she was dating predominantly black guys? Most of it was just some perfect 50s wife mixed with bull fantasy almost. Just really made me see my mother in another very unfavorable light. Whoa, I can only imagine when you thought they were your wives, then found out they came from your mother. What an emotional roller coaster. Pretty common in my culture. Parents do not tell their children about sex ever. When the children get married, the very next day they ask you about a baby and when will it come. Thank God for the internet, more people know about sex. I have a few, but keep in mind both me and my wife were inexperienced when we got married. 1. At the wedding family luncheon, Wife's relative. Do you feel it yet? I'm not sure about the premise of the question, but I assume she meant something like, do you feel different now that you are married? Wife. No, not really. Makes sense, we date for 3 years. My great aunt from across the venue. She will tonight. Her words echoed. 2. My sister's best friend got us a whole basket of fun to open up on our honeymoon. It was an assortment of condoms, lube, toys, vibrators, dildos, card games, handcuffs, anal toys, a pack of candy panties. Safe to say the inexperienced wife and I were scarred. 3. Her, while shaking my hand, palmed me $40 a condom, most likely pulled out of his wallet, and said enjoy, and winked at me. All I know is that highly religious people are weird and kinky. When I was dating my wife, a few months in, I was working with her dad for some extra spending money. I went to lift something, and my father-in-law says, careful with those nuts of yours. You'll need those. I almost dropped what I was lifting. While engaged, my then uncle and I was chatting, and let me know if she talks your size, just flip her over and shove it up her pooper. His words, complete with popping noise. That'll have her screaming, you're huge. You're huge. I learned way more about his, and by proxy my blood aunt's sex life, than I ever wanted to. On the bright side, I was super not surprised when they divorced. Not married, but dating. Was told by a friend, if you break up after you're 25 and want to go into the dating scene again, learn to become a stepdad at it. Changed uncle to friend because we aren't related, but he's in his 30s. His nickname for me is Uncle XXXXXX. Creepy is putting it lightly. My uncle during the reception, so you finally got tired of the I'm not in the mood crap and put a ring on it. Huh. Congrats, I guess. Yes. He literally thought you couldn't rate who you're married to because, and I quote, that's the whole point in doing it. Apostrophe. Very creepy. Was he married? Yep. Only reason he was my uncle. Past tense. Thankfully. My grandmother gave my husband and I a casual speech on why oral sex is sinful and we shouldn't do it. I have no idea where it came from, and I honestly think I blacked out for the majority of it because I have no idea how I responded. We were just like, okay, cool, sounds good, moving on. Apostrophe. To start the conversation, my grandfather advised me to not wear her out in the first month. Apostrophe. This wasn't advice, it was just awkward. My dad presumably did not realize my fianc and I had been abstinent, and thus were very much looking forward to getting it on, and he asked what are your plans for tonight on my wedding day, as he lives out of state and was hoping to go to a concert with me and my husband before he left. Unfortunately, my plans for the night were not something I felt my dad should hear, so I politely and awkwardly declined with no explanation. What the hell? Of course are planning to spend time with your wife on the night of your wedding. That goes for just about all weddings. The only variation is the size and length of the wedding party. Started off badly, got better. In order for your marriage to succeed, you must have a wife and a girlfriend at the same time. But you damn well better make sure it's the same person. He continued, never stop treating your wife like your girlfriend. The second you stop trying to impress her, the end of your marriage begins. You got me in the first half, not gonna lie. LMAO, not creepy so much as ducking stupid, but my ex-mil said a daughter is always her parents' daughter, but when a son gets married, he becomes his own man and head of his own family and no longer belongs to his parents. So I asked if that meant they'd stop asking us for money since he wasn't their son anymore. They didn't find it funny, but they also didn't stop asking for money. They sucked. Not super on topic, but enjoy today, because one day you're going to wake up and look at that person sleeping beside you in disgust and think, I can't believe I married you. And if you think that's good, wait until you have kids. Yeah. That's when you wake up and say, I can't believe I had kids with you. Carrot, it's been almost half a year and still haven't thought this. But I remember on my wedding day finding it real audacious, lol, I to add this wasn't a family member. and was like 10 minutes before I walked down the aisle. Like, just say you hate your husband and go. At my friend's wedding, his grandfather stood up and gave them a speech that went something like, every time you try for a baby, put a jelly bean in a jar. Try to fill the jar by the end of your first year. So my friends and I went to the nearest drugstore store and bought their entire stock of jelly beans and gave them to the happy couple. The day after our wedding was my birthday and we were celebrating with family at her parents' place. We knocked on their door and her mother opened up and said sorry, no returns. Still makes me laugh. Not necessarily creepy, but my father-in-law said something to the effect of, if you don't treat her right, then I'll kick your ass. This being a guy who was married 3 times and has 2 children that he is completely estranged from. I didn't object to the sentiment necessarily, but just coming from someone who clearly gave very few ducks about the sanctity of marriage or familial relationships, it tickled me. Not my wedding day. His grandma was showing deeper signs of dementia when I met her, and she passed 2 years ago. For the record, to me this was sweet, but it's technically creepy. When I met her, she's calling herself a witch and needed to talk to me away from the men. She then gives me all the ways to disarm a man if he was acting untoward. My personal favorite was her demoing how to properly grab a man by his nuts, hook your nails, and twist. Her eyes lit up, and I'm pretty sure she's done this multiple times. From what I heard, her first husband was a horrible person and she ran away from him with the children. And every time she met me after that, she'd give me a different getaway tactic and to let her know if her grandson wasn't treating me right, she said she'd make him into stew. Like this video and this good boy will be your mailman forever. We are Redditation, and we Redditate every day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a wonderful day you magnificent people.